Hi everybody, Stumpy Grump coming at you. I got the last update video on my 1970.5 Camaro Z28 from AMT here. What I tried to do is show you how everything went together, any issues I might have came across, just a couple of them, and what I did to correct them. You can go about it different ways, but I think these are pretty good ways to correct what little fit issues there are, as well as showing you my wet sanding, quick wet sanding procedures, how I wet sand. So hopefully this will help you if you have any issues in building this kit. So let's get this thing together, all right? Okay guys, so the first step in the final steps is the wet sand, polish, and wax. For this step, I take micro mesh 2-inch polishing pads. You can see your chart there, you have 9 different grits. I only use the bottom 4, mostly the bottom 3. So they're 2-inch pads, and what I do is I cut them into quarters, like so, as I drop it. I cut them into quarters, and then I peel one side off of the pad, the foam there. The reason I do that is, to me, it gives me better control over the sanding and polishing process, rather than being on the big pad and it doesn't bend as well and conform, especially when you're doing contours like this hood, getting inside the little grooves there and stuff and the rounded edges. I just feel like I have better control over that with the thinner, just this outside part. That's just me, that's just how I do it, that's just my thoughts on it, but that's how I do it. And I use these pads, like I said, I cut them into quarters, and then that. So if that's all you do is use one per car, and I use these 2 or 3 times, so even if you only do that, one per car with them, you're getting 8 uses out of it. Plus you have all these other grits if you don't use them, which I normally don't. So you're gonna stockpile on those, which I kind of have, but long story short, that's how I do it. That's how I wet sand. So there's the body. This one I actually did not polish. I normally use the Novus number 2 fine scratch remover, but I didn't in this case because it came out so well. I just didn't use the polish remover, and I went straight from wet sanding to the wax, Meguiar's cleaner wax. So up next now is time for bare metal foil. I will show you that in a second when I'm done. Okay, so I got the chrome trim on like magic. As I said, a second later, there it is. Took about an hour and a half to do it all around the window trim, along this little side trim on the bottom here, and I even did the marker lights, and then used Tamiya clear orange and Tamiya clear red for those. The next step was putting the chassis and the interior into the body. Test fitting showed me exactly what I needed to do. I ground a little bit off, I can try to get it here, the front of the dashboard. Right down in there, the very front of the dashboard, or back of the dashboard, or whatever you want to call it. I trimmed about 1 millimeter off of that with my Dremel tool. I just ground off about 1 millimeter. so it fits in, I say, right down there on the dashboard, right in the very back there, or front, whatever you want to call it. Just shortened it just a smidge, like I said, about a millimeter, and then it fit. The glass fits wonderfully, by the way, and then the dash fit right in there. Now, putting the actual chassis in, what I did was I slid it in from the back. I forgot to record it, but I slid it in from the back. So those of you wondering if you could put the back valance on before, I wouldn't, because that's the easiest way to me to get the chassis and suspension on and interior in, is to leave that off. And it slides right on anyways. You're going to want to put that on last anyways, and if you're careful, you're not going to get glue everywhere. And then you put, like I say, you put the firewall in first, like the directions say, and make sure that this part glues right up against that firewall on the bottom there. I used a clamp to hold it for a few minutes while the glue set and dried. But that will get the front end right where you want it. You can see the frame rails even with the lower body panel there. So that's where I'm at right now. So we come to the part of gluing the rear end on, and it pretty much fits right in, as you can see. What I ended up doing was I did not use part number 100. That's called for in the instructions. There's 2 rear ends. This one sits a little lower. I used the other rear end, mainly made for the design for the Baldwin Motion kit, but you get 2 of them. I didn't, like I said, I did not use number 100, which is called for in the instructions for this kit. And it sits right in. Even fits around my custom exhaust. I'll have to bend it a little bit back once I get the rear bar on and everything, but everything goes on. Got the shocks on. But put the wheels on. I'll put them on a little more stable later, but if I can flip it over without knocking them off. And there you see. So it's not really high in the back there. It doesn't, you know, you use part number 100 and then the wheels sit too far up in the fender well and it's squatty in the back. So that's how it sits. I'll get the front end on next. Let's see where we're at then. Okay, so I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to see, but I'm going to try to record it anyway. How I get the front end on. Okay, the suspensions are all on except for where your wheel's attached to. Got the radiator in, the lower hose on, barely, but it's on. My exhaust is on, because those are going to slide right in. And hopefully everything goes in. You even got the hood latch and the mechanism and the horns on. Hopefully everything goes in the way it's supposed to. So we'll see. First thing I got to do though is I have to get the drive shaft. Whoops. I have to get the drive shaft in. So it fits. So here we go. Here's the attempt. drive shaft, I can see, is going to be a little bit tricky. Have to line up the holes in the exhaust here. Pretty tricky process. So, while I don't normally do it, I'm going to glue the drive shaft to the transmission. Like I said, lining everything up at the same time is what's going to be the bear, and I might not be able to do it on camera. Okay, I think I got it. I don't know how much you saw or how much of my head you saw. We'll see when I get to the editing part. But everything looks like it's in there. Now you got to apply glue to the attachment points, the locator pins and locator holes. Get the other side here. Well, it would have made sense to do the both on the same side at the same time, huh? So my glue is acting up a little bit on me. You just slip everything in to the locator holes. Okay, and we try to get everything glued up here. And we just hold everything. Hold everything for a few minutes till the glue dries. Probably take cloth here. And put some clamps on. hold things down. Now comes time for the spindles. We'll try to get those on and see what those look like. Well, I'm thinking that's going to look pretty good there. Okay, the spindles are on. Up next, I'll try to get all 4 wheels on. See what our ride height looks like. And I think everything looks okay. Looks about right to me. And we'll look at the other side, and I think it looks pretty good. So we'll go in and we'll glue some things down and get everything stable and come back. Okay, now the only other fit issue I came across with this is just me, probably not just me, on the back end here, when you're putting on this back panel, back tail light panel, there are a couple things. Sorry about having a camera all over the place, making everybody dizzy here. I'll show you on the instructions. Okay, so on the chassis here, these 2 tabs, right there and right there, I ended up grinding those off. I just used my Dremel tool and whatever attachment that is, ground it down pretty quickly and easily. And also on the inside of this panel, right there and right there, are protrusions or whatever, rectangles, that are meant to go inside those once it's on the body. I ground those down too. Ground them down smooth because I couldn't quite get the this to fit flush. So I ground those down too. And that's the fit that I came up with. It fit inside up under the spoiler okay, but it didn't fit right there on either side. I just couldn't get it to look right. So now it pretty much sits flush. And that's it. That's really all the issues that I had with this. I've got the front valance and spoiler ready to go on. Next, I'm not sure, got a couple of busy days coming up here, Friday, Saturday, and I don't build on Sundays, so it might be Monday or Tuesday before I have the reveal on this one, but I wanted to get all this shown to you, how it all goes together. Everything else, just small little bumpers and finishing up little bits on the engine, the carburetor and the air cleaner, and of course the upper radiator hose. So that's all that's left. Try not to sniff too much glue and paint fumes, and I'll catch you next time here at Stumpy Grump Scale Speed Shop.